everybody, it's Dana Brigman of the Canine Coach Carolinas, and I want to share a little story with you today about a client that I have been working with for a little over a month who called originally about a dog with separation anxiety. I can usually get a lot of information from my questionnaire, but was really surprised when I went to my first appointment thinking that we were going to be talking about separation anxiety and discovered how many issues this dog really has. And he's only 8 months old. So he was a rescue from the shelter with origins unknown, right? We don't know really what happened. But keep in mind that we do know when you wind up in the shelter, foods are not always the best, and there's an automatic vaccination protocol unless there is any proof of documentation. So when I get there, we're talking about separation anxiety, but a lot of other stuff is revealed. Resource guarding, serious resource guarding, right? I mean, to the point, full on teeth bared over the bowl. Dominance over grandchildren in the house when they visit. Demanding behaviors even of the adults in the home. When I brought my dog out for sort of the dog-to-dog evaluation portion of things, we discovered a pretty intense amount of leash reactivity that I believe had he been off leash or had the opportunity to be in close proximity would have resulted in some aggression. So, a lot of things. Resource guarding, separation anxiety, dominance, and leash reactivity, right? Just to name a couple. I also noticed that the dog had some spots on his back hind quarters that seemed to have been shaved down and were growing back, and I asked what happened there and was told that the dog had some hot spots that had been treated with antibiotics and steroids at the veterinarian's office, obviously. And so I'm like, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. What does he eat? So it turns out he was eating a veterinary prescribed brand of food that if you'll do a little research on that, including I have a blog or a video on how to read the dog food label, you'll find what may be a very low quality food was being given to this dog, full of corn, full of fillers, full of chicken, which is a common inflammatory food. And one of the first things that when I'm talking to someone about dogs with anxiety, aggression, and allergies is chicken's the first thing to go, right? And we look for cooling or more neutral foods. So I had some pretty tough conversations with this family. And we talked a lot about the need to really step into a stronger level of leadership. The female owner in the home was a little soft, and the male owner in the home a little hard, right? And so we need to find sort of that balance of consistent leadership that is easily understood by the dog, very clear, very specific, with not a lot of leniency, to be very honest with you. So we couldn't start the separation anxiety work until we started peeling back some of the other layers. I had a conversation with them about the dog food and really said this has to change. That I don't believe we're going to get a good result, let alone the desired result, if we don't start looking at the core of what's happening to this animal. So they were initially resistant a little bit to changing into a price point that was so much higher than the food that they had been feeding. But as we talked about where we would see offset of cost, better health, better results, if you will, they were open to it. we also talked about essential oils. She already had a few, so I said, let's use what you've got. And we started looking into things like cedarwood and vetiver and valerian, all things that would be more calming and essential oils that may bring back some balance to the state of mind. So they did all that. They were to use the essential oils every day. When the food came, they were making the transition to a raw diet that was more neutral in the protein source. And when I went back a week later, things were going pretty good. And she said, I really see a difference in the dog. I feel like we've already made about 70% progress and things are looking pretty good. So we continued our work, got into working through some of the resource guarding, had a really bad episode with the dog where he really challenged things. Now, I use safety protocols and procedures, and part of what we have to do is prove to them that their antics don't work, and then the dog has to rethink things. And so we're working through this protocol. It was a tough lesson. Owners are upset. We talked about muzzle conditioning the dog and a lot of things. And so we've been at this now about a month. And I went back last week for a follow-up lesson. And the dog looks different. You can see sort of calmness in his body. You can see a little more clarity and a little more relaxation in his eyes. And just his whole demeanor is softer. Not seeing that same level of dominance. So I go in prepared to do our resource guarding protocol, sort of the next advancement of the things that we do. And the owner said, we haven't had a problem in over a week. And I'm really surprised by that. They've been doing the things outlined. They're feeling good about things, and the dog is not challenging them. Do I think we are 100% to the point where there may not ever be a trigger in the future? No, I never believe that, right? No matter what we're working on. Our goal anytime we're dealing with aggression is to get through that dog's entire life without another episode. But we can't bank on that. We have to do all the things that continue to drive leadership and clarity and expectations for that dog and set up things to be safe. So we're continuing to do that. But the sheer fact that this owner is feeling comfortable and confident in what she's seeing speaks to me and reinforces what I've continued to say for a long time now, is that when we pair together training with nutrition and essential oils, and we bring harmony to the body, how it feels physically, how the state of mind feels, and clarity around rules and expectations, we get a really excellent result. And in this case, we're getting it much more quickly than I expected, even with the food change and the essential oils. There are a lot of trainers, and I was one of them many years ago, that believe training is all you need, that you can train away bad behaviors and replace them with good behaviors. And by and large, that's true. With resource guarding, we train a dog to give up the bowl on command. To when a human approaches a bowl, to step away from the bowl. And we teach the dog to basically give space to the human, to acquiesce to the human, if that's the right word, to concede to the human and say, okay, I'm not going to challenge you over my food bowl. So that can be done. And I've done it many times in years past. I've done it really often with some corrections involved. And in this case, we're seeing where the dog just doesn't feel the need. And that's a big difference, right? That's a big difference. That he's just more relaxed. He's just in a better state of mind. And rather than us having to command him, he has released the need. And I think that's a big deal. I think when I meet with pet owners and guardians who have some level of behavioral challenge, whether it's aggression or anxiety or some combination, their first action is, we don't want to talk about food. We don't want to talk about essential oils. We just want you to do the training. In part, I think they're looking at that going, that's more money. That's not what we signed up for, and does it work? Sometimes I think essential oils feel like voodoo to people, right? And let's call it magic rather than voodoo. But they're challenged by that. It's a hard thing to accept and to bring in. And it's easy to just say, no, we just want the training. Which is why I'm working to do package offerings that include getting started with these things, bringing in ways that you can do this and getting a whole package from me of nutrition and wellness and behavior modification protocols that will help bring a good result to that. So why am I sharing this with you? Because this is a great case study. This dog had so many things that were creating stress, not just for the family, but for him. He wasn't happy. He wasn't balanced. He wasn't in a good state of mind, and he didn't feel well. You could look at him and tell that he was a little bit off, that his eyes were just agitated and his body carried all this stress in it. And now you see him, he's loose, he's relaxed, the eyes are softer. And that's a big deal, right? That's a very big deal when we start releasing whatever he's been holding on to emotionally. And so I know, not just that I believe, but I know that nutrition and essential oils are a key piece of bringing that together when we do the right things as confident and strong leaders. When we put all these pieces of the puzzle together, we get better harmony in the home, better balance, better energy, and better behavior from the dog. So if you have any questions about any of this, let me know. I'd love to talk to any of you struggling and give you some ways that we can work on bringing some solutions to this. They're not always this fast. We still have work to do with this dog. Now that we've peeled back many of the other layers, we are working on the separation anxiety, and that's a big challenge. He was caught by a neighbor planning to jump out of a 2-story window. And so right now the family has not been able to leave the home for quite a while unless he goes with them. And we're starting to do the protocol now of getting him to be alone, to accept that he can be settled and relaxed when nobody's home. So again, lots of work to do, but we're on the right path by helping his body and his mind be in a better state. So I would love to help you, whether your questions are on nutrition, essential oils, or behavior, or the combination. Give me a call. Love to talk to you.